Hello, my name is Julia Unel and I'm a naturalist at Walter B. Jacobs Memorial Nature Park, which is one of Caddo Parish parks. Welcome to an introduction to acrylic painting program of our park. Today we're going to paint another songbird, the second of a set of four. The first one was a black-capped goldfinch. This one will be Carolina wren. The substrate is 6x6 canvas. The paints that we're going to use are titanium white, raw sienna, burnt sienna, burnt umber, deep yellow, permanent black, and titanium white. The brushes that we're going to use are, here are my flat brushes, a very wide one, a little bit wider, smaller wide, and there are two thinner ones, all flat brushes. And then one, it says number 2 on here, filbert, and a liner. As usual, first I printed out some photographs of the bird, this one from the internet, to see the details. And then I printed these two, this one and this one. But I like the position of this one, so we're going to paint this one on a branch. As usual, on a 6x6 piece of paper, I draw the sketch with some proportion indicators to make it easier for you. There are two ovals. The body is 2 inches, the head is 1 inch. Since it's going to be a set of 4, I'm trying to make them the same size, similar, so they will look nice when they're all together. Okay, if you're ready, let's begin. I'm going to paint the background with white. If you want to leave it white without painting at all, that's fine. This will make a paint run smoothly while you're painting the bird. It will help. I'm going to use my bigger flat brush and I will paint the body with very, very light yellow. First, like a silhouette. The silhouette that I draw for you, I'm going to paint it here with very, very light yellow. The reason for very light yellow is if I do it big or too small, it will be easier to correct the mistake. I'm just doing the proportions that I gave you by eyeballing. I think this is it, and the head would be here. And the beak would be here. The tail would be here. I want it to be right in the middle of the canvas, basically. That's what I'm paying attention to. I think this is good. I'm going to paint the top part with raw sienna. Here is the head. I'm painting with lighter colors first. I will paint gradually, layer after layer. Let me just put the silhouette. This little wing is passing a little bit like this. It will pass the tail, and the tail is going to be something like this. And the legs will be like this. beak. This is too big for the beak, so I'm going to just wait for that. Okay, now I can start using my smaller brush because I'm going to be painting the details. Which one shall I use? Let me start with this one, and then I will go down to even smaller later, just before the liner. Okay, we're looking at the colors now. This is, I will use reddish brown and dark brown, which would be burnt sienna and burnt umber. So it will go in between those. Burnt sienna right now, the reddish one, to do the top of the head. Carolina Wren's head is not perfectly round. It is kind of elongated. It looks. It's a very small bird. It lives in the bushes. It makes its nest in lower, it's not a tree bird. It generally spends its time closer to the ground, in the undergrowth generally. Okay, let's paint this. Let's not be, okay, let's paint this way. Okay, the wing, its little wing hangs down kind of like this when it is standing, and it starts from here. So this is the wing. It kind of, so there is a row here, big ones, and then there are 3 big ones right here, and then the smaller ones come with little bands. I'm using my smaller brush. It's not a liner, but you can either use your liner or the smallest. I can't see the number. Well, this is number 2. Flat brush. Just use that. I'm going to draw the first row of bigger feathers here. And then there another row here, like 3 feathers. And then the rest goes there's a very thin dark line, I mean shadow. It's not a line, but feathers are darker, looking darker here because of the light. I'm using burnt umber right now, the darkest brown, to make the edges and lines. And then the darker part here. There is a really white line right above its eye, so it goes like this all the way to the back of the head. There's a white underneath the chin. I'm going to use my liner. I'm going to put the beak. The beak, I'm first going to do it with very light brown. I can make the beak now a little bit darker. I'm doing the darkers gradually. I'm going to add some black on top. Its beak is very dark brown, almost blackish. So I'm going to add just black and put some highlights with white later on. The eye is right in between these two beaks, right towards the front of the head, kind of like this. It has round black eye. It's going to be a little bit smaller. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller by putting a tiny eyelid there. Let's do the white eyebrow. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. You can always correct the mistakes. If you don't feel free to paint, if you are worried about making mistakes, you will never be able to enjoy painting. You can always correct mistakes. And this white eyebrow goes all the way to the neck. And then let me make the eyes a little bit smaller. Yes. Let's put the tail. And this is too long here. It's a very compact bird. I'm going to put some white here, so it will dry by the time I decide to paint that part. We're going to make it a little bit yellow mixed with brown. Not dark yellow, very light color, kind of like this. It is almost like this. And as it gets to this part, it gets a little bit darker, and I'm using raw sienna for here. I'm making kind of short, small feathers here. I'm going to paint all the way to the eye. We're going to add some other colors here. I'm just making the basic layers here. And let's paint this part too. We're going to do the details. The good thing about filbert is it will paint smoother. If you don't want to see paint brush strokes too much, you can use filbert. It softens up the lines. I'm making its chest a little bit rounder. Looks more like it now. Like I said, it's a very compact bird. It's round. I'm adding some a black to burnt umber here because the bottom part is darker. There's less light on this side. It is just to make it darker brown. I'm using burnt umber for this part. And it kind of goes like this. There are browner feathers around here, around the eye, underneath the eyebrow. So I'm just going to make this a little bit darker. I'm using burnt umber right now, just burnt umber. And my filbert. As you see, it is softer filbert strokes, almost like painting with mop brush. I'm going to put some lighter colors here, lighter brown, just arranging right now. I'm going to make this a little bit lighter on this side, but top of the head is darker. There's dark brown here. I'm just going to add my dark brown a little bit more, make it a little bit darker. I'm using burnt umber right now. Just using burnt umber right now. I will make this white eyebrow much brighter white. I'm just putting my browns right now, and then I'm going to paint the white like feathers on the dark feathers, the white feathers on top of dark feathers. Okay, let's put the lights here while this white is drying and the browns. I'm mixing raw sienna with white. Let's see how it looks, and then we can change it if we don't like it. It should be kind of yellowish. I didn't like this. It should be a little bit. Let's add some yellow. Yes. When you blend this with yellow, it looks much better. The better color of the bird. I'm using deep yellow. Just a little bit of white to make the deep yellow lighter. Deep yellow with white. I'm going to go all the way here because I'm going to put some white here, and I want contrast between the background since it is white. So I want the edge a little bit yellowish, kind of like here, so we can see where the neck is. I'm going back and forth, you know, getting darker and lighter. Maybe some more white, you know, make it lighter. Always make it like a feather, you know, feather direction is this way, backwards, towards the tail, always. So, especially here, it kind of, since it is round, it kind of light hits better, so it's a little bit lighter down here. This is, we put a little bit more white here. I want it a little bit shinier. Light is hitting right here. You want to give that roundness effect. Round-chested bird. And I'm doing this way. It leaves light and dark marks, like, and it makes it like, looks like feather. And some white feathers are visible here, very tiny marks. Very tiny white marks on this brown patch here. Let's not make the marks too visible. I'm kind of just very lightly touching with the tip of my brush. Okay, I'm gonna make this a little bit blending with brown. It's too abrupt here. I have to blend these two gradually, and I'm going to use dark I'm going to use burnt umber because that's the color that's here. And I'm gonna, when I mix it with the white with burnt umber, it will blend in automatically. Because this white is still wet, and it's making the burnt umber lighter in places. Okay. I just realized that they have a white patch right underneath their eye and underneath their chin. I'm going to now take my liner, because they are very small areas right here and here. I'm going to add pure white, and then I'm going to also touch this eyebrow too. So there is a white line, right, very thin white line right underneath here. Let me zoom a little bit. You see this very tiny white line here. And then I'm going to add some, it's kind of like bristle feathers here with pure white. Right here under the chin there's white. Since it is dry now, I can put my little feathery. And let's put some shine on this beak with white again. Very, very carefully. It looks like the light is hitting from the bottom because this part is much lighter than this part and the top. So I'm going to put a little the shine underneath instead of on top of the beak. My white line finishes where the middle of the beak is, I mean the mouth opening. So I'm going to make the top part darker with black. Very carefully, we don't want a huge beak here. Okay, now I'm going to make this smoother with white. I don't want that dark, looking too dark there. I will just, don't make the beak bigger. See, this black is blending in with white. There. And I can use this very light black to kind of put shadows on this. There are some bristle here, kind of like this. It is white, but now it looks like light is hitting. There are some shadows there, yes. I think this white goes all the way, kind of. There are tiny feathers here. It's not pure white, it is like you see the feather. I'm going to add some very light brown here because I don't want this to disappear. But I can do it like there are white feathers here, bristle feathers that are coming down. I think that looks okay. Let's put some dark right here. Feathers are going this way. kind of fanning out. This is kind of mixing with white feathers, you know, some part of the feathers. I think the undergrowth, I mean the downy feathers underneath are whitish. That's why it kind of looks like there are white patches here. They're either white or brown. It's not light brown, or it shouldn't look like it is smeared. It's not light brown, it is white and brown here. If you want, you can wait for your white to dry a little bit and then add your little brown feathers here like this. Let me make this top part a little bit darker, very thin darker line to the top part, very top. And now I'm going to do the white eyebrow there. Pure white. Make very thin irregularities here. It has to be very bright white lines. It's like feather tips, small feather tips, like eyebrow, exactly like eyebrow. I think that's good enough. I think this part should be a little bit smoother, so I don't want this here. And if you can't do the white, you can put your brown lines here. Make them a little bit more visible. Okay. Okay, now let's do the wing. But before we do the wing, I'm going to make the eye really black. Let me make this white line thinner. It's not thick like this, it's very, very thin. We're going to do the wing and the tail details now. Let me just do the tip of these feathers darker so we know there are feathers there, big feathers. Very thin lines of feather. Let's make inside of these feathers burnt sienna, which is reddish brown. Let's do the tail, reddish brown. The tail is reddish brown. Goes like this. Imagine it parallel like this, but there is a little smoothing here. There are feathers that complete here. So this is lines to That's burnt umber here. There are some very light, almost white. I'm mixing burnt sienna with white to do these. They have checkers. You don't want it to blend in, so I'm putting a little bit more visible white. And the same thing it has on its tail too. Light effects here, so we know there are bigger feathers here. Okay. I think I'm going to make this part a little bit and of course darker, because this is the darkest part where the light hardly hits the back, because it looks like the light is in the front coming from this way. I'm making these whites a little bit thinner. I don't want them to blend in, so I'm going to use dark brown to make them a little bit thinner lines. And here you want to show some feathers. Okay, now we're doing the branch. Let me do the toes now. The toes of the bird, of course, will be with the smallest brush. Okay, we have finished painting our Wren, Carolina Wren, on a 6x6 canvas. Here is mine. We will paint 2 more. The next one will be a tufted titmouse. Thank you for joining me and see you next time.